This is what time does to genius. It buries it in rust and neglect. But this is what devotion does to rust. It reveals the soul of the machine. Before its rescue, its voice was a grating screech of oxidized iron against wood. It was an instrument of friction, not precision. After its rebirth, it whispers. The sound is no longer of scraping, but of severing, creating a surface smoother than glass. How did this forgotten relic become a revered icon? To understand, we must go back to a time of steam, steel, and a revolutionary idea. Before this, there was only wood. A craftsman's plane was a block of beech or maple prone to wear, warp, and the whims of weather. Then, in 1867, a patent was filed that would change everything. Leonard Bailey envisioned a tool with the heft of iron and the precision of a scientific instrument. The heart of this revolution was born in fire. Molten cast iron poured into sand gave the tool its unyielding stability and mass. Once cooled, the rough casting was a crude black shell, holding only the promise of flatness. The real work was just beginning. On massive, belt-driven milling machines, the sides and sole were cut. This was the first moment the dull iron began to shine like steel. To protect the body from the very rust that would later consume it, a durable, baked-on enamel was applied. This glossy black coating was called japanning, but the soul of the plane was its blade, forged from the hardest tool's steel. It had to be sharp enough to split a single wood fiber in two. The handles were not just for grip, they were the human connection to the steel. Prized rosewood was shaped and polished, warm to the touch against the cold iron. The true genius, however, was in the adjustment. For the first time, a simple turn of a wheel could control the depth of cut with microscopic accuracy. This mechanism, known as the frog, allowed the entire cutting assembly to be seated perfectly. It was the engine of the entire machine. The final piece of the puzzle was the lever cap. Its job was simple but critical: to hold the blade assembly in place with immense pressure, eliminating all vibration. Once assembled, it was more than the sum of its parts. It was a perfect marriage of iron, steel, brass, and wood. Craftsmen could now produce surfaces with a speed and perfection previously unimaginable. The tool didn't just smooth wood, it accelerated progress itself. The proof was in the shaving. A continuous, unbroken ribbon of wood, thinner than paper, was the signature of a perfectly tuned plane. The Stanley Rule and Level Company stamped their name on this icon. It became the standard by which all flatness would be measured. For $2, a woodworker could buy a lifetime of perfect surfaces. It wasn't just a tool. It was an investment in mastery. How does a precision instrument become forgotten junk? And how does that junk become a treasure once more? As the world accelerated, the quiet tools were the first to be left behind. The hum of the workshop was replaced by the roar of the motor. Left in the damp and the dark, time is no longer a measure of work, but of decay. Iron, once the symbol of strength, begins its slow surrender to oxygen. Nature, the very thing this tool was meant to shape, begins to reclaim it. The craftsman is gone, but the weaver remains. The once impenetrable lacquer on its rosewood handles gives way. The wood's thirst, long quenched by oil and sweat, is now only met with damp air. Every component designed for precision now seizes in place. The tool becomes a single, solid monument to neglect. The blade, once honed to a surgical edge capable of severing wood fibers, now has an edge of jagged rust. It can no longer cut, it can only tear. The plane is no longer alone. It joins an army of forgotten things, each a story of a craft left behind. Even the maker's mark, a stamp of pride from a bygone era, vanishes. Its identity is erased under a crust of oxidation. The world outside forgets the satisfaction of a perfect shaving. Convenience has a new, much louder sound. Rain finds its way in, not to clean, but to accelerate the decay. The water pools on the flat bed, a stagnant pond where black Japanning once shone. The brass, once gleaming like gold, develops a sick, green patina. It is the color of poison, the color of abandonment. The plane becomes part of the landscape, a small iron fossil from the industrial age. The perfect geometry of its soul is lost forever. Flatness is a memory, replaced by a terrain of pits and craters. The wood of the workshop itself gives up. The foundation of the craft crumbles around its tools. Now on the floor, it suffers the final indignity. It becomes just another obstacle in the dark. The very air is thick with the dust of decades. Every particle is a moment the tool was not used, a job it did not do. The world has moved on entirely. Its function is so forgotten, it is no longer even recognizable as a tool. For half a century, there is only silence and darkness. The iron waits, holding the memory of the hands that once held it. But nothing is ever truly lost. Sometimes, all it takes is a single ray of light to begin a resurrection. It begins as a forgotten relic, a ghost of iron consumed by time. But within that rust lies a promise of perfection, waiting for the right hands to bring it back to life. The resurrection starts with a careful deconstruction, a mechanical autopsy. Every screw, every lever holds a story of its own. Decades of neglect are dissolved away, not with force, but with a quiet chemical baptism. The process is a slow reveal, unearthing the soul of the steel. The heart of the plane is its blade, and its edge has been broken by misuse. It must be reborn in a shower of fire. The most crucial step is the pursuit of absolute flatness, a process measured in microns. This is where the tool becomes an instrument of precision. The final cutting edge isn't ground, it is polished into existence. It becomes so sharp it can sever the very fibers of light. The wood itself, scarred and dry, is given back its warmth and its grip. The human connection to the tool is renewed with every drop of oil. The iconic black armor is reapplied, not as paint, but as a tough, baked-on skin. This is the classic Japanning that protects the iron heart. The brass components, once green with verdigris, are polished until they gleam. They are the functional jewelry of the machine. Finally, the components are reunited. The reassembly is a quiet, deliberate ceremony, the final act of restoration. The moment of truth arrives. The first cut after a lifetime of silence. It is no longer a piece of scrap. It is a functioning work of art, ready for another century of service. But the true legacy of a great tool is not in its use, but in its passage. The knowledge and the iron are passed down together. Through the years, the handle's grain darkens with the sweat of generations. The soul of the tool becomes a composite of all who have held it. For some, one is not enough. The rescue becomes a collection, an obsession, a library of iron, where every model tells a different chapter of the story. Eventually, the journey ends here. The tool transcends the workshop to become a certified artifact, a silent testament to the age of craft. Its identity is now fixed, its history cataloged. It is no longer just a but a specific piece of our industrial heritage. It can no longer feel the wood, but it can still inspire. Its reflection holds the future of the very craft it helped to build. The perfect form, born of function, remains timeless. Its silhouette is as iconic and enduring as any great work of architecture. The work is done. The iron sleeps, but its legacy is alive in one final, perfect shaving, an echo of a job well done. And Pandora.